Steelers Nation, what's up, everyone? Before we dive into today's breaking story, let's take a second to appreciate something about this football team. Week after week, you can see how hard this group is working to get better. The chemistry is building, the game plans are sharper, and the results are starting to show. Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan have built a team that's learning, adapting, and fighting to bring more wins to Pittsburgh. So before we get rolling, make sure to hit that like button to show some love for this squad that's pushing itself to perfection every single week. Now, let's talk about what's shaking up the NFL right now, because just when you thought Omar Khan might be done making headlines, a brand new name has entered the Steelers' list of potential trade targets, and this one could absolutely stun the league. According to The Athletic's Diana Russini, the Jaguars are taking calls on wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah, you heard that right. One of the most talented young wideouts in the game might be available, and the Steelers are one of the teams reportedly making inquiries about adding another weapon at receiver. Russini wrote, "The Jaguars are listening on calls for WR Brian Thomas Jr., even if a move feels highly unlikely." Now, let's pause there for a second. The Jaguars trading Brian Thomas Jr. would be shocking. He's only in his second NFL season, already proven himself as a dynamic deep threat, and he's coming off a dominant rookie campaign. But Jacksonville's new leadership, General Manager James Gladstone and head coach Liam Cohen, might be looking to reshape their roster in their own image. That means no one's completely untouchable. And Russini added something that should make Steelers fans perk up. The Steelers are making calls about adding a wide receiver. This isn't just smoke. Multiple insiders have confirmed that Pittsburgh has been actively exploring receiver options as the trade deadline approaches. The offense has been solid, even a pleasant surprise through the first 7 weeks of 2025. But Omar Khan knows that if you want to go from good to Super Bowl contender, you can never have too many playmakers. Right now, DK Metcalf is leading the charge at wide receiver, with Calvin Austin III recently returning from injury to reclaim his WR2 role. But behind them, the depth thins out. Roman Wilson, Ben Skowronek, and Scotty Miller have had flashes, but none have emerged as a consistent third option. That's where Brian Thomas Jr. could come in. And imagine this for a second, Steelers Nation. Metcalf and Thomas lining up together, two big, physical, explosive wideouts with Rodgers throwing them the ball. That's a nightmare for opposing defenses. Now, let's be real. Pulling off a trade like this wouldn't be easy. Thomas is young, talented, and still on his rookie deal. Jacksonville would want a big return, and it's not clear how far Omar Khan would be willing to go. Remember, he already traded a second-round pick to Seattle to acquire Metcalf earlier this year. Giving up another high pick in back-to-back drafts might not fit the long-term vision. But here's where it gets interesting. Pittsburgh still holds that third-round pick from the Dallas Cowboys, part of the George Pickens trade earlier this offseason. If the Jaguars are truly open to listening, and if Khan can package that third-rounder with a future mid-round selection, it could be enough to at least get the Jaguars to the table. And honestly, if there's one GM in the NFL who knows how to structure a deal creatively, it's Omar Khan. He's pulled off surprises before. Think about it. Trading for Metcalf, swinging deals for Jalen Ramsey, adding Darius Slay and Juan Thornhill. Every time people think Pittsburgh's done making moves, Khan finds a way to shock everyone. Now, while we're talking about the offense, let's not overlook the challenge that's right in front of this team. Sunday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers. This one's huge. Two teams with rich histories, passionate fan bases, and elite-level talent squaring off under the lights. The Steelers come in at 4-2, while Green Bay is sitting near the top of the NFC. And here's a wild subplot. Aaron Rodgers could join one of the rarest lists in NFL history this weekend. Quarterbacks who've beaten all 32 teams. You know he's got that one circled. But for Pittsburgh, the focus will be on execution and discipline. The Steelers have been one of the least penalized teams in football this year, averaging just 6 penalties per game. That's a huge credit to Mike Tomlin's staff and the attention to detail they've emphasized all season. On the other hand, the Packers are the complete opposite. They rank 29th in the league with more than 8 penalties per game. That difference could be crucial in what's expected to be a close, hard-fought matchup. But one thing Pittsburgh has to watch closely is the officiating crew. Sean Hotchley will be calling this game, and his group ranks among the highest in the NFL for defensive offsides penalties. Through 7 weeks, Hotchley's crew has called it 7 times, third most in the league. That's something T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith need to be very aware of. Watt's already been flagged 3 times this season for jumping early, tied for the most in the NFL, while Highsmith has yet to draw one. With how aggressive both edge rushers play, they'll have to walk that fine line between explosiveness and discipline. And it's not just the starters. Nick Herbig, who's been a breakout star in his second year, will also have to be cautious when rotating in. The Packers' tackles, Zach Tom and Rasheed Walker, are likely going to try to get a jump on Watt and Highsmith, so the officials will have their eyes glued to the line of scrimmage. If the Steelers can stay clean, win the turnover battle, and keep their composure, they'll have a real shot to come out of this one with a statement win. But, circling back, all of this ties into the bigger picture. The Steelers are 4-2, the roster is talented, and the offense looks better than anyone expected. That gives Omar Khan leverage. He doesn't need to make a move, but he might make one anyway to put this team over the top. Adding a young star like Brian Thomas Jr. wouldn't just make headlines, it would send a message to the rest of the NFL that the Steelers aren't just contenders, they're coming for it all. Wilson's journey so far has been a mix of potential, patience, and perseverance. Drafted in the 3rd round back in 2024, Wilson arrived in Pittsburgh with the reputation of being one of the most polished route runners in his class, the kind of player who could thrive in a balanced offense. But between nagging injuries and limited opportunities, his early NFL career hasn't gone exactly as planned. Still, when he finally got his shot against the Cincinnati Bengals in Week 7, he made the most of it. He only had 2 catches for 17 yards, but make no mistake, it was his best performance of the year. Not just statistically, but emotionally. You could feel his confidence starting to come back. And with trade rumors swirling around the Steelers' wide receiver room ahead of the November 4th trade deadline, Wilson stepped up and made something clear. He's not fazed.
When reporters asked him about the trade speculation, Wilson stayed cool. His response? "Since I've been here, since the day I was drafted, there's been speculation, so it's nothing new to me." That right there, that's maturity. He went on to say, "It doesn't really affect me, and I don't think it affects any of the other receivers as well." That's the kind of mindset you want to hear from a young player trying to earn his stripes. And let's be honest, the Steelers' receiver room has been under the microscope all season. Between DK Metcalf being the clear WR1, Calvin Austin's return from injury, and veteran Scotty Miller trying to stay healthy, there's been constant talk about whether Omar Khan might bring in another receiver to deepen the group. But Roman Wilson's recent play and quiet confidence may be enough to convince the front office to stand pat. Because let's face it, the Steelers' offense is finally clicking. Aaron Rodgers has this group playing with rhythm, poise, and balance. The running game is opening things up downfield, the offensive line is starting to gel, and younger guys like Wilson are finding their footing at just the right time. And now, with Scotty Miller officially ruled out for Sunday night's showdown against the Green Bay Packers, Wilson's moment could be right around the corner. You couldn't script it any better. A young wideout, healthy for the first time in months, facing a struggling Packers secondary in prime time. Green Bay has been giving up chunk plays to almost every opponent this season, and Wilson's route-running ability and quick separation could be exactly what Rodgers needs to keep drives alive and defenses honest. Think about this. Wilson doesn't need 10 catches to make an impact. 2 or 3 timely grabs, a third down conversion, a red zone catch, or a deep shot over the middle could completely swing the game. And if that happens on national television, it could mark the moment fans look back on as the beginning of Roman Wilson's breakout stretch. Now here's the other side of the story, those trade rumors. Pittsburgh's front office has been doing their homework. Reports say they've shown interest in a few wideouts around the league. Players like Jerry Jeudy, Rashad Bateman, and even Curtis Samuel have been loosely linked. But with the chemistry building between Rodgers and his current core, would bringing in another receiver disrupt that? Or would it push everyone, including Wilson, to elevate their game? Wilson doesn't seem worried either way. His comments to the media showed a quiet belief in his ability and in the team's direction. "It's something you just always deal with," he said, "but it doesn't affect me." That kind of mental toughness is what separates temporary role players from long-term contributors. He's showing he can handle the noise and stay focused on football. And that's something Rodgers absolutely values in his teammates. And remember, Rodgers himself has spoken highly of Wilson before, calling him a smart, disciplined receiver who knows where to be. That's high praise from a quarterback who demands precision and accountability from his wideouts. If Wilson can continue to prove reliable, he may earn more snaps alongside Metcalf and Austin as the season progresses. Offensive coordinator Arthur Smith has been vocal about wanting to diversify the passing game, and Wilson's combination of crisp routes and after-the-catch burst fits perfectly into that goal. Fans should also keep in mind, the Steelers' schedule after the Packers matchup only gets tougher. They've got the Ravens, Bills, and Browns all looming, teams with physical secondaries in complex defensive schemes. Rodgers will need every weapon he can trust, and Wilson's growth could be crucial in those high-pressure games. So here's the question for you, Steelers Nation. Should Omar Khan make another bold move before the trade deadline? Should he go all in on Brian Thomas Jr., or play it smart and hold on to those draft picks for the future? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear what you'd do if you were running the front office. And hey, if you're fired up about where this team is heading and want to keep up with every trade rumor, injury update, and insider report, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Because with Omar Khan calling the shots, Aaron Rodgers at the helm, and a hungry defense ready to bounce back, the Steelers might just be one big move away from becoming the most dangerous team in football. Thanks for watching, Steelers Nation, and as always, here we go.